If you like the video you're about to watch, make sure to hit the subscribe button and click on the notification bell to be notified when new content is uploaded.
All right, so here's just a little introduction. I'm gonna do a walk around and do the interior as well. It's my 1985 Freightliner cab over. Has the 400 Cummins in it. Has a 9-speed manual. It does have a wet kit installed, which I don't particularly like this tank very much. I prefer the side mounted tanks, but this came on it. And after looking at tanks, they're actually fairly expensive for what they are. So I believe I'll stick with this one for now. A bunch of little things to address left on it. Obviously, it's not a perfect truck. It's a 1985 cab. Trailer wiring is junk. That's all got to be replaced, but that's not hard. Just take wires off, reconnect wires, clean contacts, good to go. And show a little bit of the back end. Has a sliding fifth wheel. It doesn't lock, however, in order to do a frameless dump. So that is something I'll have to address if I do decide to pull a frameless. But got a little bit more painting left to do. But brand new mud flaps, brand new brackets. The little silver piece on the back for mounting the lights was already there from a previous owner. But I did, however, replace all of these lights as well as these marker lights because most of the LEDs were burned out, so half of the light only lit up. So that's a big no in my book. So replace those. They were pretty cheap. And let's see, get over here. We have, of course, I've got to get fenders for the front. The fenders were, one of them was missing, the other one was kind of raggedy, so I just went ahead and took them off. Missing a bolt right here. I've got to replace that. That's all easy to find at the local store. I don't know how visible it was on the other side, but we have what they call the pogo stick. I went with a 40-inch, the biggest one I could find, so that way it would pull my air lines and my electrical underneath or above the hydraulic tank, so that I wouldn't have any issue, hopefully, with it rubbing whenever connected to a trailer. It's one of the reasons. There's a few reasons, but it's one of the reasons why I don't like this particular tank being mounted here. We do have the new stack, which I installed recently. It's straight piped. The old one actually got taken to the scrapyard today and gotten rid of. I don't remember exactly what size the new stack is. I'll have to look back at the other one, take measurements and add that into the description or something. But we have a brand new piece of flex pipe. Goes to our little elbow right here, runs up. This is actually, the elbow stops about right here, and then from here up is actually one big piece of pipe. So it's a 2-piece, 3 if you count the flex pipe. It came with these chrome brackets from the original purchase, or the seller of the truck. But as you can see, they were meant to bolt downward to something, whereas the factory Freightliner mounts, the bolts went in this way. So, and I still need to paint the end of this. It's one of the things I need to get to, but I can paint right over that surface rust with the equipment paint that I use, and it'll neutralize it. But actually I just cut these pieces of angle iron. I rounded the corners a little bit to make them look nicer and not as much like angle iron. Bolted them to the factory bracket, and then bolted this bracket to the top of the angle iron. I used all stainless hardware, so that way it looks good with the chrome, and it also doesn't rust. So it's not going to look like garbage here in the next, month or two once it rains and gets wet constantly. The truck was recently repainted not too long before I purchased it, so the paint job was in pretty decent shape. It was a fairly basic one. The person who did the paint job, the guy said that they just cut the wires rather than disconnect them for the front turn signals. So that's pretty nice, but at least it's just a simple reconnect the wires and go. It actually did not have these rubber grommets. I was able to find those for I think $6 for a 10-pack, and I only needed 2, so that gives plenty of extras front bumper's got a little bit of dents to it, but not a big deal. Eventually I'd like to replace it with something a whole lot nicer and a whole lot shinier, but right now it does its job, and the truck's going to be a work truck, not a show truck that gets parked all the time. So I'm not really overly worried about it. I do have the visor to go up there. I'm painting it because the guy did not have that painted when I bought the truck. But I just haven't got up there to do that. Again, same thing on this one, but the wire is not cut on the outside, it's cut on the inside of the door panel. But I may actually end up replacing these because they're not LED and they're pretty old and rusty, and I've replaced all the other lights, so I figure I might as well put new lights on there. So all right, now for the inside. And the inside is not as nice as the outside, but I knew that when I bought the truck, that the interior was the part that needed the most attention. Some of the gauges have been replaced. See if I can get it in focus. The water temperature or coolant temperature gauge has been replaced. I've replaced the tachometer myself, but I haven't hooked this one up yet. The speedometer is still original. I may replace that, but for now I'm gonna try to leave it. Eventually I do plan to replace all of these so that they match and have the black face with the white letters and the chrome trim rings. This piece is for the air conditioner. That's missing. That's just an air conditioner vent. I'll have to go online and find a junkyard out of town that has one of these trucks and purchase that, or maybe you can find an aftermarket one that works. I'm not overly worried about that. That's just, you know, that's just aesthetics right now. This truck does, like I said, have the fifth wheel that can slide. So right now it's locked. You would flip this lever this way to apply air to the lock in order to unlock it, and you would be able to slide it forward or back to adjust the weight on the drives, and then you would push it back this way and it would lock it in. And you have the interlock for the differential as well, so that way if you ever get in muddy conditions, you start spinning, you can flip that, lock it, and think of it almost as if almost like locking in four-wheel drive on a pickup, I guess is the best way I can describe it, versus two-wheel drive. You use it only when needed, and then unlock it when you're driving on paved hard surfaces. I do have a radio in the truck right now. It's an old Galaxy that came in the truck. Kind of cleaned it up, repainted the case. I need to clean that up, put a little, figure out what label went there and have one reprinted for it, or buy one to put on there. But I do plan to use this because it's a pretty nice radio and it came with the truck. They did change out the radio. It's just kind of loosely mounted in there. I'm gonna make a different mounting bracket. Actually, I might change that out for something just a little bit different. Let me move this coffee out of here from where I've been working. They broke this tab off. I guess this screw was stuck in there, and when they turned it, it twisted the whole tab instead of turning the screw. So that's unfortunate, but it is what it is. It's an old truck. Things are gonna break. But this will not just bolt back in. So I'm actually going to have to make a little bracket to put behind here that will come out and have a nut tack welded on the back side of it, so that this has something to screw into and will hold itself in. Eventually all these switches and everything are going to get replaced, you know, along with the gauges, so everything will be nice and clean. I do plan to leave the steering wheel, however, or get one very similar to it. I like the old look of the big steering wheel. I don't really want anything small or, you know, fancy looking. I just like the standard steering wheel. The passenger side seat is missing. It was like that when I bought the truck, and it's not a big deal. I don't really plan to carry passengers all the time. That would just be something where, you know, a girlfriend or, you know, like a close friend of mine, or if my son wanted to go, you know. But otherwise, as long as I have a driver's seat, that's all that matters, because, you know, that's really all you need, a semi-truck, to be honest. This is a sleeper truck. Ignore the junk back there in the sleeper. It's door panels, some spare gaskets and stuff, logbook, work gloves from where I drove it home. But it's actually in pretty good shape. It's got a fair bit of dust, as you can see right here. But I mean, it's almost a 38, if not a 38-year-old truck. So there's been quite a few years of dirt accumulation here. I don't have a mattress yet for this. That will be one of the very last things that I get. But I have to figure out what size to use. I do have to get up here the curtain that goes to close off this, but again, that's not very high on the priority list. This truck, if everything works out, will actually be operated locally, and I'll just be home every night for a while, and every once in a while we'll take it out on some road runs. And of course, you know, right there with the driver's arm set the most, you know, that is kind of tore up, but that can all be recovered. I actually would like to do a black interior on this truck later, so that would be something that could be changed out. This is slightly shade tree, but that's how it was from one of the prior owners in the last 38 years. This actually, I have it hooked up to train horn. It's just a manual valve. Just flip it forward to, you know, turn the train horn, make it come on, flip it back to close off the air supply, and train horn goes off. Eventually I'll figure out a way to fix these holes that were drilled and mount that a different way. Probably hook it up to the factory air horn pull cord, but for now it's not an issue. It works, it does its job. There's other more important things to worry about than just little nitpicky things like that. I have to get a boot. That boot is original, so it's torn, but it does have the 9-speed in it, which is a little bit of a learning curve for me coming from a 10-speed because the pattern's slightly different. I just had to get kind of adjusted to it, but it's pretty easy. You have your low range, your high range gears. I'm not the best at explaining it, but you basically would go first gear, second gear, third, fourth, and then you would flip this splitter into the up position, and you would go back over to what would normally be first gear, and now it's 5, and then 6, 7, and 8, and you have the low, which you really don't necessarily need unless you're just really heavy. You generally can start off in first. I was starting off in second gear, bobtail, and according to my dad, actually, I could probably have started off in third, but I did second, and it was actually tripping the tires a little bit, even though I was easing out on the clutch, just because it had so much torque and that gear was so low. But it works very well. Just a little bit getting used to, you know, compared to shifting a 10-speed, and it's been a very long time since I actively drove a 10-speed or any manual truck on the road. So let's see, let's hop out of here and get down. So the seat is not original to the truck. It's been swapped out, and right here you would flip that up, and that actually fills the airbag that's under the seat and raises the seat up. But the seat literally moves like that much. I don't even know why they have air underneath it. It's pointless in my opinion, but it has it, but it literally moves that when you air it up to the max. So it doesn't really go up high enough to actually see very well out of those passenger mirrors. So this is either going to have to get replaced, which I'd prefer to replace it, or I'm going to have to build some sort of little bracket to go underneath here to raise it up off the floor a few inches. That way the seat will be high enough. And then I have to reconnect the PTO. This is just sitting here. This actually has the lever to raise and lower the trailer. If you're pulling you know, either an end dump, a frame or a frameless end dump, that is what makes it go up or down as far as the controls. So, but that's it. It's a little bit rough on the inside, but that's not really something I'm worried about right now. Just trying to get everything tidied up and ready to go.